Louisa. And, Albert, Kenneth, Julie, Kate, Eddie, John, and Lisa. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:15. And I'm going to try to use that and juggle over to my email. Okay. And can you all still see me? I've switched screens.
I can see you, Mr. Russo.
Kevin, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I didn't see you on the participant list, so you must have just popped on.
I did.
Your presence is welcome, sir. And welcome.
Oh, good to see you. I'm coming in on my computer in a second.
Okay. All right. Eddie and John, there are some interesting numbers on this month's document. Before I start asking.
I think Ed's going to walk us through it, right? If that's okay.
All right. So I will turn the meeting over to him at this point.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Can everyone see that clearly?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on track on spending the $141 million that was budgeted for this fiscal year 23. Very few exceptions. You know, the overages at the high school, unexpected expenses of $250,000 in the overloads is what we're projecting for this year. As the overloads continue, 3 months into the school year, we are seeing negative and positive numbers in different line items, as you mentioned, Al. The reason for that is we are in the transition, as we mentioned a few months ago, of transferring line items to balance certain account lines, and that will continue. We should have that all cleared up for the next report, and that's between general fund and grant funds. You know, there's individuals that were being paid in one bucket versus another bucket, whether that's a general fund or one of the other grants. So we have in the last 2 weeks, this report is as of October 31st, but as of the last 2 weeks, we have moved a great amount of individuals and millions of dollars from one budget to the next budget, or one account line to the next line, and that will show in the next report in December or January when we meet again. But like I mentioned before, the last paragraph, we're on track, very similar to October 31st of 2021. We had spent about 20% of our budget. We've spent 19% of our budget. So right now we expended 26.25 million. There's encumbers of 93 million. And then the balance we're seeing of $21 million. It's not really a balance, it's unencumbered balances that will be projected throughout the year. So health insurance will encumber the rest of the health insurance for the year, dental, you know, any transportation, any other lines, that will continue to happen. It usually happens right after, you know, we've opened schools, we started already. Now we get into the nitty gritty of each line and see which lines weren't budgeted the right way or come over when we did the budget back in December of 2021. So the bottom line is, you know, we have 141 million. We plan on spending 141 million, and we monitor those lines. So if we go through the detail sheets, I'll bring these up a little. This is your summary of your general fund and your grant funds. So if you're seeing the salary line is in a negative 1.6 million, that's because there's individuals that will be coming, that have come out since, you know, October 31st to today, November 15th, out of the general fund into the grant fund and entered in their buckets. For example, if they're paid out of ESSER or priority school. We've moved those individuals. It is a tedious process and it takes time. It can take up to 5 minutes to 10 minutes per individual, making sure we grab their history from say July 1 to today, and make sure all that comes over correctly. So that's something you'll see that will go away the next report, very similar to the other lines as well.
Eddie, excuse me, before
Are
you
there any
change.
questions? Mhm.
Yes. Before you, again, the term undesignated cuts to the fiscal year 2023 budget of $1.5 million in the red. That you're saying that's going to go away?
Those are the cuts that we made when our budget was cut from the 155, well, 152, 155 million. We had $11 million we had to cut, and we created a line in there so it would balance out. Is that correct? How I'm explaining it, John?
Right. And Al's right too. That red figure will go up into the salary line. It's made up of two components. One was something that's different names. We've called it salary savings. We've called it breakage. It's about 900,000, if I remember right. A difference between staff members who were leaving and what we expected the replacement staff to be hired at, which were lower steps. We have this every year just from normal attrition. So in June, we didn't know who those people all would be, or although we knew most of the people who were leaving, we hadn't done all the hiring yet, so we didn't know exactly what lines that savings would come on. So we parked it down there to make the budget balance. And the other part of that was, I think it was 5 elementary sections that our enrollment forecast at the time said we probably didn't need to fill or have. Even then, we didn't quite know whether they would be first grade or second grade or where they'd fall. So as the summer progressed, of course, we found that out. But when we put this budget together, we didn't know. So that's down on that line. But now that we know all those things, those cuts will go back up onto the lines where the savings occurred. And that would be in the salary, the top line. Sorry for the long explanation.
That's not a negative number. That 1.499670.
No, if you look up there, the 79,655 number for salaries, that will go down by $1,499,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. I see
So,
something in red is like, I didn't understand. But I do. Thank you. for
Okay.
taking the time and patience.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
And then the next following documents are, your standard monthly report on our general fund and our grant fund. You see the numbers some are in a negative, some are in a positive. Those are the transfers that we have begun making and we will continue to make and clean up for the following report the following month. I'll just scroll by slowly. If you have any questions, just let me know. And I'm going to go into the grants.
I have a quick question. Based on the same subject,
Yes,
you said
Julie?
that this will cover this, and the next report we will see it differently. When will we see it, the next report? On the next board meeting, or on our next our committee?
The next finance committee meeting. We present this first to the finance committee meeting, and then the following board meeting it's approved. So it'll be the following finance committee meeting.
The finance. Okay, perfect.
Finance, correct.
So the board we will see this number on red, right? And then you
Yeah,
pretty
this
much
report
the
you're seeing now, you'll
most of the, yeah, so they
Yeah.
won't pretty much understand. I get it. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Yes, just to go back to your question, Joe, report is, what everyone sees on the board. It's a public document, so. And here are our grant reports. Oh, I'm sorry, here's the grant report of all of our grants, as you can see. And those are, as I mentioned earlier, removing individuals from the general fund or any other buckets into the grants where they need to be. So that's a task that in the finance department, in the central office, we're identifying those individuals and those items that need to be moved. And that really concludes my report for this month. Are there any other questions?
Just to recap, on page 1, we are roughly 19% of our budget is spent, and we are on track to have a successful year without a major deficit.
Like to add something. I don't know if everyone can hear me okay.
Yes, Mr.
We
Walsh.
can hear you, Kevin.
Okay, man, my connection is not the best, I guess, over here. So I just wanted to add for the finance committee, I know there have been requests to kind of get an update on where we are with our, for lack of a better term, spend down on our American Relief grants. And I would like to be able to review that at Monday's board meeting. If you would like, I'd also be happy to Mr. Russo, Ms. Canetta, if the two of you would like to kind of talk through prior to the board meeting, just so we can kind of walk you through. I have that a bit. We're envisioning we'll have some clean data available by Friday. But I think it's important, given like this is really our last meeting where we have some action before the year ends, just so the board has a good idea of kind of where we are, the kind of state of those monies and kind of revenue streams coming in. I feel like we're in a little better place than we had originally planned, just because we have not kind of had to do everything as the plan was calling for. So the social distancing guidelines have been relaxed. The need for PPE has been relaxed. It's been well documented that we came out of a close to $3 million strategy at Brookfield between staffing and the leasing of the building that we came out of. And so these are just a number of commitments that we've made. Number one, we don't have to continue because the guidelines have been relaxed, and we can kind of invest that money in different ways for the board going into budget season. So I just wanted to make the committee aware we don't have it ready for tonight. Otherwise, I would have made sure it was queued up for tonight. But we do want to make sure we review this with the board on Monday. And we just feel like there's a sense of urgency because we know things are going to be moving fast in January.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Walston. I do want to take a look at that in advance of the meeting if it's possible. We do have the CABE convention this weekend. So I will
that's right.
be out of pocket Friday and
I
Saturday.
will as well. I'll be going up there Friday as well.
Okay, good.
Right,
So
but I will
perhaps
make sure it's in the packet.
Monday
Okay?
afternoon
I can do that.
or
Absolutely.
Monday morning, whatever is convenient
Right.
for them.
I will also be at the Cape Convention. Maybe we could spend a few minutes together, Kevin.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And I know it's off track here, but registration is at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So that's like over a two-hour ride in the morning. What time do we actually need to be there?
You sound like me when I went to DC, Mr. Russo. Because registration was at 7:30 is, and what time the first sessions start. Sometimes they have a long registration session is, so I can take a look and I can ask Kara to send an update to the board members.
All right. I'm probably going to go down Thursday night and grab a
hear me
hotel room somewhere.
Oh, there you go.
That's, yeah, just getting up at 5 o'clock and out of the house by 6, and I don't want to be late on my first convention. And so, yeah, all right.
I hear
Well,
Louise is an early riser. Maybe she can give you a ride up on Friday morning.
Oh dear, I may not be company. All right.
It'll
I'm
be good to
sorry.
see everyone up there.
All right, yeah, I'm hoping we can have a few minutes together in some of the
Okay.
breaks at the convention. I'm sorry, Eddie,
So
John, anything else?
Can I ask a couple questions, Mr. Russo?
Absolutely, man.
Well, first, I just want to make a comment. I really like this notes column on the side that kind of gives us a sense of, some information, that we may not understand immediately looking at the spreadsheet. So that's very helpful. And I really appreciate it. And I see that a fair number that is earmarked with ESSER money. So I guess my question is moving down to the grants area. I see that we're running a negative balance on some of these based on our encumbrances. Is that because the grant money hasn't been received in-house and we're anticipating that money coming in at some point? Or is there another reason?
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yep. So some of them is that, and some of them just have to be moved around, as you mentioned. Some of the encumbrance might be encumbered too much. That shouldn't be encumbered that much. So that's why we're going line by line, grant by grant, identifying that to clean it up. So yes, to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. I figured that was going
Yep.
on, but just wanted to be sure.
You're welcome.
That's it for me. Thank you.
That's it for my report, unless there's any other questions.
No, it does seem it was clear, succinct, and you answered preempted all my questions with your answers, sir. Do we have any other? More money, more money, more money.
I'm wondering if I can ask a question that's not to do with this specific financial report, but I'm just kind of wondering where we are, and I know we will get an update on this soon, but where we are as far as the budget process and getting information from administrators and other staff that may be providing input for that budget.
Maybe I could answer that one. So our budget calendar has the instructions, well, I call them the instructions, going out either Friday or Monday. I'm not sure which. So I actually have them on my desk here. One of the things I just finished doing today was looking at the Malone and McBroom enrollment forecast for next year, because if you recall, we're using the term as a base allocation, where we look at the number of pupils that are expected in a school and then budget them at so much per pupil. So I now have all that. I needed a couple pieces from Kara Wanzer today. And then I've had some discussions. We're gonna, I'll call it step 2, where last year we identified a number of cost centers that have worked quite well, I think, for responsibility accounting. And we want to do some more of those this year. For example, at the CRC, there was one amount for the CRC, and the idea was Kara, as its leader, could determine whether it goes to art, music, or to English and language arts, or wherever the need was. But the program leaders, they have some regular things they do year in and year out. So we're going to set up some individual cost centers out of the original one. So it'll be a offset money-wise, but those program coordinators will have their own budgets. We're also going to set up a separate cost center for school security. They actually don't have their own budget. We've been using the sites and facilities budget for that, but the work that's done there is really very different. So they'll have their own. So we're just putting some final touches on the framework. then it'll be going out the door. Everything will be due back before Christmas. I think it's the 20th of December. I'm not sure. But that's where things are.
Okay, thank you. And just a follow up to that, in terms of communication with city council and the mayor's office, I know we've had this kind of ongoing conversation about how to sort of open up this process to make it more transparent for those folks, and to sort of expand their base of knowledge about, you know, how we develop our budget and what that entails. Where are we as far as those communications?
Well, one of the changes in the calendar, I think it might have been the board chair's idea that is that the first or second workshop, city council members, I think the ad hoc committee members will be invited to participate alongside yourselves in understanding why the line items are what they are and what we might be able to do with them. So that's one big change. But we really wouldn't present the spending plan to city officials until you, the board, have decided what it's going to be. You know, the superintendent's budget becomes the board budget, and that's usually the time it's sent over. So we plan
Sure.
to meet there's a deadline in the charter. I think it's the first Tuesday in February. We plan to submit on time like we did last year and go from there. But I think,
I guess I'm thinking not so much from this strict budget season that's coming up, but from a standpoint of sort of our overall financial picture. You know, obviously we just got the information about costs for the Career Academy operations. And we've looked at, you know, I think board members are pretty well aware of the financial cliff we're going to be hitting at the end of this year. I just want to make sure that, and I know that this has been brought up with council, this has been mentioned to council, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we're doing our due diligence of continuing to put that, keep that communication stream open, and just sort of, you know, see what we can do as far as brainstorming with the mayor's office or with council to address some of these gaps.
Mhm. Yep. I don't have any other specifics right now, but I can bring that back to our cabinet level, or we can talk about some more. I'm sure there are some ideas.
Right. I do, John. I have specifics on that. Because we've had two different meetings with members from the city of Danbury specifically around the school budget. One, the task force for Danbury Career Academy, which has, you know, been delayed during the election season, and you know, certainly we will get back on track with those meetings. But the other meeting is kind of an ad hoc meeting with a number of stakeholders, which include representation from the council and people from the mayor's office. We had our initial meeting, and I believe I reported out in our meeting in October about this initial meeting in October. And I felt like initially it was a really good meeting, as we kind of talked about the state of the district, the kind of financial state of the district, and kind of a collective agreement that we would come back, have more people at the table from the council, from the community, and collectively find different ways to improve or increase revenue streams coming into the Danbury Public Schools, whether those are federal dollars or state dollars, and then also be in a position to help the city of Danbury better understand our situation so they can make some informed decisions as those times approach. So we did kind of have a collective commitment in that meeting in October, and the agreement was we would come back together again soon after election season. And now that that's over, I anticipate we will be able to resume and get back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
And no, you're welcome. Thank you for asking. And our board chair, of course, Rachel Chalesky, was in that meeting. Mr. Janelli, in his role as a community member, was in that meeting and helped to broker the meeting. We had a councilman in the meeting. We had two people from the mayor's office in that meeting as well. And it was, quite frankly, it was a great start to helping the city better understand kind of the situation that we're in, and the kind of investment we're going to need over these next couple of years to be able to not only open up Danbury Career Academy, but also just be able to sustain the work that needs to be done across the district as these relief monies continue to expire in the next year or two. So thank you for asking, because we haven't talked about that in a while, Kate, and I'll make sure I revisit that and talk about that on Monday as well.
Appreciate that, Mr. Wilson. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any non-committee members lurking in the background have anything to add? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I want to thank you all. This has been a busy committee week, and I want to thank you for taking the time. Kate, thank you for staying at work, getting it done, and coming in.
Shall I make
6:41.
a motion to adjourn?
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Okay, Kate makes the motion. I will second that motion. Did I hear you? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good night, and we will meet.